It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? That's a no. But strong deodorant? That's a yes. A six-pack of abs? Definitely no. But a six-pack of beer? Uber Eats can get you that. There you have it. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Super quick question. How many tabs do you have open right now? If you're like me, it's dozens. And if you're running a business, it's a lot more. And with all those tabs, you're spending more time searching and less time, growing your business. But HubSpot's customer platform brings all your tools into a single, powerful place for marketing, sales, and service teams. So close those tabs and get growing. Visit HubSpot.com to get started today.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Welcome into Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday, October 2nd. I'm Madelyn Burke alongside Super Bowl champ Shaun O'Hara. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or find us on social media at #GiantsChat. As a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcast. Shaun, happy week 5. It's officially October. It has been so many days since the Giants have played a football game on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, it almost feels like a bye week.
Right?
The 4-day weekend felt like 2 weeks, if you will.
Go War Eagles.
I think, it's funny. Football did not stop.
Nope.
The Giants football took a break. Action-packed weekend for the Franklin Lakes War Eagles. Shout out to my son's football team, youth football team. Big game on Saturday night in the rain. We had to rely heavily on the run game. We did not throw a single pass during the game except for a couple of two-point conversions we went to. So that was O-lineman's dream right there. Run
Play
the rock,
smarter.
tilt the rock, ground and pound. I think Dan Campbell would have loved that kind of game plan. And then another game on Sunday. So AB game. It's football is life right now.
Football is life.
We were talking about before.
Like Danny Rojas would say.
Yeah, this is what we do right now. It's all ball all day, every day.
Every day.
But yes, great weekend. A lot of big games in the NFL, obviously, and the Giants obviously have turned the page a little bit from the Dallas game as they're already focusing on Seattle. But I think it still feels, all right, September's over with. I call it sloppy September.
Yeah.
I think October is kind of like the leveling agent month right now. Like, all right, the teams that everybody thinks sucks, like that should level out. They're not as bad as you think they are. And the teams that everybody's like, oh my gosh, they're unbelievable. I can't believe, that they're this good and everybody's playing this well. Like that will start to level out a little bit too.
I think the theme song for the Giants is Green Day. Wake me up when September ends. That's what they're feeling right now. September is over. That's in the books. October is here. It's a new month, new you. But you talked about the War Eagles strategy with the run game, finding success in that regard. And it reminded me of Thursday Night Football because, that's a lot of what we thought the Giants strategy would be to find success against the Dallas Cowboys team that's allowed a lot of rushing yards. However, 26 net rushing yards in a full 4 quarters of football is something that I think we were pretty surprised by after that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked a lot about it leading up to the game. Mm-hmm. Dallas could not stop Baltimore. Of course, we all just saw them, go ape all over the Buffalo Bills too, so it's a different beast. But the fact that Dallas could not stop the run coming into this game, we were expecting a huge dose of Devin Singletary and a huge dose of the run game, incorporating Daniel Jones into that as well. And it didn't come to fruition. And the shocking thing about the 24 yards rushing for the entire game is they had 29 yards at halftime. So they actually lost 5 yards in the second half on the ground. That was beside me. And as we stood there on the postgame show, and I'm saying, I couldn't believe they got away from the run game. You've got to be patient. You got to stick with it. Going back and watching the film, and even looked at it a little bit again this morning, it was unbelievable the amount of mental errors that happened during the run game. This was not a physical beatdown. This was not physically the Giants couldn't run the football against the Cowboys. This was a mental error. There's one play, Jermaine Illuminor goes the wrong way. It's a run play to the left. It's 37 Zorro, we would call it, a weak side, single back run, and he has a brain fart. Like he goes to the right. His guy, Greg Van Roten, chips on him and goes up to the backer, and that guy makes the tackle for a 2-yard loss. And first down, you run the ball, and now it's 2nd and 12, and that's the bad football that I thought we had gotten away from. There was a couple of other times in the run game, Madelyn, just looking at the orchestration up front. It's a 7-man box. There's 3 linebackers. You've got a tight end on the ball. You've got a fullback, and you have enough guys. You have 7-on-7. The Mike declaration, there was some confusion there. John Michael Schmitz and the fullback are going for the same backer. The will linebacker's unblocked. So it's very odd that stuff is happening in week 4, but it was a conglomeration of all of that. I also thought early on in the game there were some holes, and Devin Singletary just missed a couple of cuts. So the culmination of all of that equaled we're struggling to run the football. All right, you know what? We gotta attack it through the air. So I think that's always the frustrating part. And as a player, Madelyn, when you come over to the sideline after a play and, hey, you go back to the huddle, hey, did you get the mic? Yep, I got the mic. All right, we got everybody blocked up. We should have had 5 yards on it. We got 0. Yeah. What happened? So you're looking at the pictures, and, it's always tough to decipher just on a picture exactly what transpired, who missed a block, who came off a block. But after you watch the film, you see they left a lot of yards out there.
Yeah.
That absolutely should have been a better execution, and they should have been able to stay with the run a little bit more. On the flip side, once they realized we're struggling with the run for whatever reason, they started getting the screen game going. And I thought the screens were excellent. They had a couple of big-time screens. Tracy had a big one. Singletary had one. And I thought that was something that they could have gone back to a little bit more. But that the passing game, I thought they got a lot of big chunk pass plays. So I, just kind of going back and looking at some of those plays, there were a couple times where I think Daniel Jones was too aggressive. There was a deep shot that he took to Malik Neighbors. He was kind of running cross country across the field, and he went for the jugular, and he had an easy first down on Darius Slayton. Had a little comeback route. That would have been, that's kind of where we call it touchdown or first down.
Yeah.
He went Wolf of Wall Street. He got greedy, went for the touchdown. It was incomplete. Could have been a big play, 15 to 20 yard chunk play. So there's always a couple little plays like that you look at and you're like, all right, we could figure that out. We could fix that. We could tweak that. But I think the run game coming into the game, I think we were all disappointed with that production.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the run game, the Giants are about to hit the practice field. Head coach Brian Dable is addressing the media as we speak right now before practice. And some news coming out of that press conference is that running back Devin Singletary, will not practice today with a groin injury. That's something that's a bit unexpected, considering that, we hadn't heard about that yet. And so that one, on top of the fact that Malik Neighbors still in the early stages of concussion protocol, he's not practicing today. It's according to Brian Dable, it's too soon to forecast his status for Sunday, but no on-the-field work. So those are the two leading producers in this Giants offense. Of course, the Giants have Wan'Dale Robinson as well, who's got a lion's share of that targets behind Malik Neighbors. I mean, he's got 38 targets on the season, second on the Giants to Malik Neighbors, and Giants are the only team to have multiple players with more than 35 targets this season. But that being said, starting the preparation for a team like Seattle, who, has shown they can give up some points. I mean, Detroit put up 42 points on them on Monday Night Football. The Giants are going to need to be able to score to have a chance in this one. And two of their highest producing offensive weapons are out of practice on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Giants fans, I'm not going to get greedy and say we'll take a 40 burger. Like, I would take a 30 burger right about now. Like, we're averaging 15 points a game again this year. Last year, we're one of the worst scoring offenses in the league, and that's been kind of our kryptonite offensively. We just can't punch the ball in now. 2 home games this season already, and we have yet to find the end zone. There's no excuse for that. You've got to find a way to finish drives, and they're there. They're knocking on the door. And again, it goes back to what I'm saying. One guy messes up, one mental error here, one guy's not in the right spot. We have a missed throw here, we have a missed read there, a missed cut, and everybody's contributing. If it was just one guy, then it would be easy to fix all that. But possibly not having Malik Neighbors, that's a huge blow to the offense, huge blow to the identity, the explosive ability. And if Devin Singletary is not able to go, that's a huge blow as well. Obviously, Eric Gray would step in that role, and Tracy as well. Two very capable backs, but I think Devin has proven that he is great at getting vertical and being decisive in some of those runs that we've seen. So he's done a great job for the Giants. He's been their bell cow in the run game. I'm actually shocked it was the groin, because I thought you were going to say a foot injury. That play where he fumbled and they challenged it and ruled he was down, almost looked like he got his foot kind of caught underneath it a little bit. So I thought that might have been the situation, but that will be tough, because when you go on the road and you play in Seattle, it is so loud. So loud. And you need that run game. You need to establish that early and often.
Well, not just the run game, too, but what he adds to the passing game in terms of his blocking ability. You know, he can pick up a block pretty well. He takes pride in that, and I think he's been an integral part in some of these, passing plays as well so far this season. Some other injury updates as well. Adoree Jackson and Drew Phillips, the rookie corner and the veteran corner, will not be practicing today either. They're still dealing with the calf injuries that took them out of the game in week 3. This secondary's got a big challenge on their hands. You've got Geno Smith, who is leading the league in passing yards so far this season. He just came off a week 4 loss in which he had a career high 56 passing attempts, 395 passing yards. And a lot of that is, yes, they were playing from behind, but also Geno's ability, despite the fact that the offensive line ranks 31st in both pass blocking win rate and run blocking win rate, he's still able to kind of keep a play alive and get out of the pocket and move it and get to one of his elite receivers, and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And the passing game that Seattle has put together so far this season is one that is really going to challenge these young defensive backs, Shaun.
Yeah, this three-headed monster, we kind of touched on it in the post-game show about how do you handle these guys. And DK Metcalf is their leading receiver by yards, but Jackson Smith and Jigba has been unbelievable in how well he has accelerated his growth from last year to this year. He's kind of becoming Geno's go-to guy, and he actually has more catches than DK. But DK, look, he's a wild child. Like he's a werewolf, if you will, when you look at what he can do outside. And so physically, he's such a huge target. He knows how to use his long arms and his strength, and he's a powerful receiver. So it's not just about speed with him. And Jigba's a little bit more of the shifty guy and a speedy guy. And then, you've got Old Faithful and Tyler Lockett. He always seems to come up with big plays for Geno as well. Geno is he's got a lot of command. You could see he's much more confident in kind of his ability and his decision making. He's definitely matured. We saw him last year as well in a Monday night game here at home. Mm-hmm. So this offense, the three-headed monster outside, but when you couple that with what Kenneth Walker is doing, and
3 touchdowns.
I mean, this guy
Monday night, yeah.
The one run where he did like a back handspring flip off of a defender. Yeah. I mean, he's coming up with all kinds of different.
He was
runs,
like parkouring his way through that.
Yeah. Was there a plank hold in there at some point? A reverse plank? He had one arm down. That Kenneth Walker is, he's a tough tackle. You got to swarm to him. You got to gang tackle him. Rarely does he go down with the first defender on him. So that's going to be a big challenge. And I think, to your point, you've got a defense that's a little bit banged up in the secondary. Now you've got to make sure that everybody's got their gap integrity. Mm-hmm. Those run fits that safeties are coming down and inserting, corners, if you're coming off the edge, a lot of times these runs are designed to get you one-on-one running back versus a corner, because that's not their specialty. So that's going to be something the Giants are really going to have to lock in on.
Right, they have to lock in on that, and they have to lock in on getting some pressure on Geno so that he doesn't keep the plays alive and get the ball downfield. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcasts. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all our Giants podcasts. Let us know what you think. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. We've got some callers holding, Shaun, so let's get to the phone lines. First, we've got Big Ed in Maryland. Big Ed, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, how you guys doing?
How's it going, Big Ed?
What's up, Big Ed?
Hey, Big Shaun, how you doing, man? You're a Tar Heel, right?
Negative.
Rutgers.
Rutgers Scarlet Knight. You must be thinking of Jeff Saturday, my doppelganger.
Okay. Jeff is the Carolina. You went to Rutgers.
We got a little bit of a crackly reception here on the phones. Maz, is that coming through on the broadcast as well? Yeah. Okay.
Shaun knows about his clip. Hey, so look, here we go. In order for the Giants to be the best team that it can be this year, they have to work on a 2-minute drill. They have to work on it 2 minutes before the half and 2 minutes before the game. If you pretty much got the game pretty much in control during the first, second, and third or fourth quarters, during the middle of the meat of the hours or the minutes of the game, you got to control it and maintain that 2-minute drill. That's why we lost.
Got to control and maintain the 2-minute drill for those having a hard time hearing Big Ed on the phone line.
Yeah, Dallas did not beat us. I looked at that game like 3-4 times. We really beat ourselves on a couple of plays. Defense messed up on that 4th and 1 right before Lance caught that touchdown pass. Had we stopped them on that 4th down, that was one. And then the biggest one of all is the end of the game. He had like at least almost 30 seconds to go 15-something yards just to get in. Yeah, so it's all it comes down to the clock management. And I totally believe in that. I like to listen, I thought that we should be doing this thing.
Are you a morning person? Or when you roll out of bed, do you literally roll out of bed? Listen, mornings can be hard to handle. From the moment you open your eyes, your responsibilities and to-dos start piling up in your head. But you know what helps? Yep, a shower. But not just any shower, a shower with Irish Spring. Yeah, as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. Oh, yeah. All those to-dos are totally doable. Because that crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from that glorious shower, 37 minutes later, because let's be honest, you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want. You're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Look for Irish Spring in the soap aisle at Walmart.
All right, thanks so much for the call, Ed. We're really having a hard time hearing you, and I know that a lot of that is a technical difficulty. I was speaking to John Schmelk about this before the show. I know we've been having some technical difficulties with the calls. We're still going to try to decipher, but Shaun, it sounded like Ed was talking about the 2-minute drill being a point of emphasis, and some other points he was making as well.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned 2-minute offense, at the end of the half, at the end of the games. Look, that should be your bread and butter because it's something you practice all the time. And it's something that I know it's a focal point when you go into training camp. Hey, our 2-minute offense, here are the different things that we need. You practice, look, here's a drive where we have 2 timeouts and we need a touchdown. Here's a drive where we have no timeouts, we need a field goal. So you're always attacking that. You're always preparing for that. And I like the 2-minute drill as an offensive lineman. I know you're not running the football; it's all pass, but it really kind of breaks things down. Like you're not getting in exotic formations. There's no motion. Like the defense lines up, you know where everybody is. They don't have a lot of time to dance around and try to confuse you and run that amoeba-like defense. They've got to get in their position too. So it kind of just like slows everything down from that standpoint. And I think you offensively, you have plays that are your go-to plays. And those are plays that you've run week in and week out. And a lot of times your 2-minute offense doesn't change week to week like the rest of your game plan. So I agree. It should be something that you're successful at. I know it's something that we would practice every Thursday. We would do it again on Friday. And it's something that like, look, this is going to win us a game. The drive at the end of the half is always paramount. Coach Coughlin was very he's very demonstrative about teams that score going into halftime and how that reflects the winning ratio. So that was a big point of emphasis, even if it's just a field goal. If you can go into halftime and steal an extra drive, steal an extra field goal, that really increases your odds of winning the game.
Does it matter when you're going into halftime? Does it matter who gets the ball first? Like if it's you going into the half, scoring, knowing that you get the ball coming out of the break, or does it matter? Yeah, I mean, obviously it increases if you're getting the ball at the start of the second half too, because then you could technically go up 2 scores if it's a tie ball game. So that definitely helps. But it's actually more imperative if you're not getting the ball to start the second half
to try to find a way to score points right before that. So I know it's a point of emphasis, and it really just comes down to execution. You can't have penalties when you're running a 2-minute offense. You've got to find a way to get a couple of big chunk plays, but you've also got to find a way to just move the sticks and keep that going. So the continuity is a big factor. Clock management, look, that's on everybody. The coach is looking at it. It's on the quarterback to make sure that he's up at the line, getting things going. But it's also, the receivers. There's something that we used to always talk about, and I teach my son and his team now too. If you're running the 2-minute offense, when you catch the ball, hand the ball to the official. Go over there. You can facilitate and expedite the process by going over there and handing it to him. Don't throw it to him. Don't spike it. Don't throw it on the ground. So there's things that you work on from that standpoint. But I think the Giants have been in weird situations, not just the end of the half, but at the end of the games where we're going for it early. And obviously the Washington game, things were different because Greg Winnell blew his hammy out on the opening kickoff. So they didn't have that luxury of, we can kick a 50-yard field goal. I think even in Dallas, there was opportunity to, hey, we're on the 3-yard line. Are we going to go for it or are we going to take the points? All right, we take the points. Fine. Later on down in the game, it's 4th and 8, and you decide to go for it instead of taking the points. So, there's some wiggle room there for that from a decision-making standpoint. No doubt they need to be better in the 2-minute offense. The one thing I used to always say was, it's okay to be good before you get to the 2 minutes. Before you get to that point where you have to play 2-minute offense because you're down 2 scores and you're doing that halfway through the fourth quarter. I think just cleaning things up now. Sloppy September is over with. All right, I'm not going to reference that anymore. That's no longer an excuse. Mm-hmm. Here we are. This is week 5. Like, those things should stop rearing their ugly head, every 5 plays.
Yeah. And some other, sloppy September is over. We are in, what are we calling October? We'll workshop this.
Oktoberfest?
Let's do it. It's going to be Oktoberfest. Lots of joy. Some other news coming out of Dable's press conference.
Okay, what do we got?
Giants are opening the practice window for Matt Adams. He's a linebacker, special teamer, Matt Adams. He was designated to return from IR on cut day. He announced his presence, apparently, by Dan Duggan of The Athletic tweeting this out, announced his presence by walking onto the practice field carrying a speaker playing Many Men during Dable's presser. And if you guys aren't familiar with the song, Many men wish death upon me. Yeah. I'm just trying to be what I'm destined to be.
I don't think anybody's wishing death on Matt Adams. I tell you, he's probably one of the most liked guys in the locker room.
He's so liked.
He's got so much energy. I think whether or not he plays on Sunday, I don't know. But I know during the week, he's absolutely bringing it. And I think you need guys like that during the week, as you start to venture into the dog days of the season and the grind. Mm-hmm. You need guys that are bringing passion, that are bringing energy. He's one of those guys that will do everything you ask him to do. He's on every special teams. He's on scout team. You want to put him in there at linebacker and give somebody a couple of breathers. He can do that. He's very versatile in that aspect. I just chuckle every time I hear his name, and I think about in training camp the story about how he showed up to the team meeting
the very first day,
8:30 in the morning. Everybody's rolling in like sweatpants, and they're like rubbing their eyes, and he's fully spatted up, full gear, full pads, full practice. He's like ready for practice, and at 8:30 in the morning, they're not even on the field for like another 3 hours. He's ready to rock.
It was the first fully padded practice day, and Matt Adams wanted it to be known that he was jazzed. He was literally in the team meeting, shoulder pads and everything, like said.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Those are the kind of guys that you love to have on the team. You love to have in the locker room, and hopefully he can provide an impact for the Giants. I tell you what, he's a hammer. Mm-hmm. Like, he loves to hit. And there were times in training camp where, man, he was laying some licks on his teammates. Can't wait to see him out there, and hopefully gets a chance to get out there on game day.
Well, and you mentioned, his impact not just as a linebacker or a spell linebacker, but also special teamer. The Giants special teams have had their struggles this season. They've had some great plays too. I think about that play in which, they downed the punt just outside the end zone. A huge play where it felt like 5 different players finished by Bryce Ford Wheaton got it down, and a lot of hustle plays, but also some moments I think that they would want back. And if you look at the way that specials have performed so far, what is your take on the areas in which that they can be, level up a little bit?
Well, I think that for the special teams, you want to provide a spark, and
Right.
if you can, it can be downing a punt on the 1 or 2 yard line and setting your defense up, for a great opportunity to get a safety, or you're basically making them go 98, 99 yards. That's a huge boost to your defense as they run out there. Offensively, it doesn't have to be a 75-yard kickoff return or punt return for a touchdown. It could be a 25-yard return that, man, all of a sudden now you bring that ball out to the 30 or 40 or 50-yard line, and now the offense has a short field. So make a play. Make something that's going to create a spark. A big tackle on the punt team, for a net return is huge. I think a lot of that, it's tough to replicate that in preseason and in practice. So, they're still getting used to all of that. And then as we get into the season here and guys start going down, guys are banged up, and now you're looking at your 45-man game day active roster. It's okay. I've got a couple linebackers banged up. Well, if they can't go, we need other guys to dress and suit up. But what do they do on special teams? And now you're kind of exchanging players and substituting players here and there. That can have a big impact on special teams because it is such a cohesive unit. But you've got to adapt to all of that stuff. So I think for the special teams, you want to try to make impact plays. You want to create some energy. And if the momentum's going the other way, you could be the momentum, the one that turns the momentum the other way. Kind of flip the script a little bit. Everybody talks about flipping the field, but it's really flip the script sometimes to give your offense or defense a boost.
Right. You got to flip the script and got to keep it going. And especially, in a place like we've talked about, Seattle, week 5 is going to be an environment in which it's loud. It is, you're going to need every spark you can find. Dable talked about how, yes, they'll be practicing silent count, they'll be practicing with noise, and these are things that they obviously implement quite a bit throughout the build-up through this training camp and through the season. But when you there's a lot going on in this room right now. But when you guys are practicing,
eliminate the crowd noise.
I know, right? I gotta focus. See,
perfect.
this is
Crowd
my Seattle.
noise.
There's a lot of crowd noise. There's a lot of distraction. But you know what? I gotta focus. I gotta lock in. This is a testament to what the Giants will be facing on Sunday.
Clear the mechanism.
Lock in right here.
Kevin Costner in Love of the Game. Clear the mechanism. You just
zero in. See,
television.
it's hard. It's hard to do, and this is what the Giants are going to be faced with on Sunday.
Seattle is different.
Yeah.
And I speak from experience. I was a part of the 2005 team that flew out to Seattle. I think we had 11 false start penalties. None of them were on me. I was the center, so I technically couldn't jump off sides. But we practiced crowd noise. Like, we knew it was going to be loud. And we had the speakers out there, and Coach Coughlin is playing white noise. And, it's deafening. And, I think we all walked out of practice with headaches because it was so loud.
Yeah.
The trainers, Ronnie Barnes, bless his heart, he's like, I want to help you guys out. What if we put like this lamb's wool in your ears? And they gave us like molded earpieces to put in there. We were trying everything. Some guys I didn't like the earpieces, the ear molds. I felt like it messed with my equilibrium. Like having that in there, and like it just.
Yeah, it's like when you have noise canceling headphones on and it's all like, why is the world so quiet?
Yeah. It's kind of eerie when you're trying to practice that and figure it all out. And it's going to be loud. And then you get there and you're like, wow, like, I wasn't ready for this. Like,
and it's an outdoor stadium. It's not even a dome.
Your molars are rattling. Yeah, for a dome, all right, that sound is going to reverberate. It's coming back in there, but it has nowhere to go. Seattle is the field, Quest Field, outdoors, but somehow that sound just gets thrown right back on to the field, and it's absolutely a factor. So the silent count, look, it's something that they worked on, a couple weeks ago, and I know it's something that you work on consistently. But the challenge with that silent count is now, as a tackle, you're looking in at the ball, you kind of lose that edge of jumping that cadence, that as soon as the goes, you're going. And you're just listening to it. So you're looking at your defender. When you're in silent count and you're a tackle, the further away from the ball you are, the harder it is because you have to look in. And now you're looking in, that ball moves, you're kick sliding, and your eyes are not on the defender. So it changes kind of the way that you set. And even underneath, sometimes when the quarterback's underneath, not even in shotgun, it's hard to hear him. So you're in the huddle, you're calling the play. We're this close to each other.
Yeah.
I'm calling the play right now.
And it just looks like your lips are moving.
Mouths. So that is definitely a challenge. I think, when you look at Seattle, they prey on that. Like they raise the 12 flag before every game. Their fans have bought into that. So it's absolutely a factor. How do you negate that? Well, you do David Montgomery did. You truck their entire defense. You do what Detroit did to them and run the football and run it often. It was shocking to see Geno Smith throw the ball 56 times. I mean, that was indicative of how the game went. But when you're at home, like you think you're leaning on Charbonnet and Walker, and you don't think you're going to have to throw the ball 56 times. But indeed, that's what they had to do.
That's what they had to do. Giants fans, take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. We've been having a little bit of technical difficulties with our phone lines, but let's give it another try. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As we head to line 2, Cliff in New York has been holding. Cliff, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn. How's it going?
Hey guys, how's this sound? Okay.
It's a little bit scratchy, but we're going to try to decipher if you can get your point in.
On my end too. 3 touchdowns average on the road, and no touchdowns average at home. I hope it's obviously a small sample size, but I hope that bodes well. I hate the noise thing. The somehow part of that stadium is acoustic design engineering, Paul once told us. So when we designed our stadium, the newest one, we didn't do that. Anyway, I wondered about the O-line. When the play that Micah Parsons got hurt, it looked like John Michael Schmitz was giving him a pretty good ride. And not that he was trying to hurt him, but I thought he looked good on that play, and that was the second week in a row he jumped out at me because of the way he handled the really good defensive tackle in Washington. So I'm wondering if we think he's coming along.
All right, Cliff, we're losing you a little bit with the quality of the call. I apologize for that, but thank you so much for powering through. Cliff's point, of course, just that he liked the play of John Michael Schmitz, the way that he played against Micah Parsons, and said that it was the second week in a row in which, JMS has been jumping out at him on the tape. Shaun, as a center, I defer.
Yeah, I think John Michael Schmitz is doing a good job. He's improving every single week. I think the challenge for any young offensive lineman is, how do I just stay consistent? You don't want to have the up and down games, and I think he's finding his leveling agent, if you will. There were a couple plays in Dallas where I don't think he was on the same page from a mic declaration. Like, it looked like he was going to the wrong backer on a couple of times, but physically I think he has all the tools, and he's done a great job when he's one-on-one in run blocking, pass blocking. I think the biggest thing that has shown up this year already is the Giants' offensive line is handling twists so much better. I mean, it's night and day compared to what we've seen, what we saw last year in their inability to pass off the inside twists. Dallas did a lot of TT twists last year in both games, because what that does is now that occupies your guards and your center, and it puts your tackles on an island. So I think, along with the ability to pass off some of the inside twists, I think John Michael Schmitz has done a much better job of being aware of that and getting on the same level as his guards, not getting picked with that. There were a couple times, where Micah Parsons was actually in the A gap and he was inside, and I thought that they stuffed him pretty good. Look, Micah didn't really do much in that game. He created one holding penalty on Jermaine Illuminor that was actually negated because it was a sack, but I thought Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor both did a great job in one-on-one pass protection against both DeMarcus Lawrence, who had been a giant killer for the last couple of years, and Micah Parsons. Now, there was a lot of good tight end chips. Eric Gray had a phenomenal chip on Micah Parsons. Actually, it was that same play. Micah Parsons kind of got drilled at the end of the play. He ended up coming out. I think it was because of the chip shot that Eric Gray gave him. I think it might have knocked the wind out of him. So I think that's encouraging. And the play of these two tackles, this is unbelievable how well they are doing at pass pro when you look at how much we struggled last year. Now, both these two tackles did not play last year for a big part of the season. Andrew Thomas obviously being hurt and Illuminor being with the Raiders. So this is absolutely an upgrade there. But I do think, to your question, Cliff, I think John Michael Schmitz is getting better every single week, and he's getting more comfortable. This will be the ultimate test, because you have to know what Daniel Jones is thinking when you change the play at the line. You're in shotgun. You can't hear him. So you have to look between your legs. You got to trust your guards that they're going to communicate to you if the defense is moving around. This road game, this playing in Seattle, in this noise and in these elements and battling all of that is the ultimate test to you as a player and as a group. Can you handle all that? Poise in the noise was kind of our moniker, and that's something that we worked on all week long.
Poison the noise, and it's one of those things that is easier said than done. It's staying focused, tuning it out. People talk about this all the time, whether it's tuning out the noise of the regular season or tuning out the noise of the critics on social or tuning out what have you. But the quite literal noise that you can feel, like you said, you can feel your molars shaking and all that is just a whole nother beast. I want to apologize to the callers too. Our phone lines are still having some technical difficulties, so we're not going to be able to take any more calls on the show.
Maybe they can FaceTime. Can we FaceTime?
You want to FaceTime
The Wi-Fi
us?
signal's excellent. Right now it sounds like they're calling in from a walkie-talkie.
Walkie-talkie over. However, we do have the social media element, so if you want to tweet at Shaun or myself or use hashtag Giants Chat, we'll try to monitor that for the remainder of the show and try to get in everyone's thoughts as much as we can. And apologies again. Hopefully we'll have the technical difficulties sorted sooner. Shaun, one thing that I find interesting is you often talk about how as an offensive lineman you love run blocking so much more than pass protecting. A lot of our fans and listeners to the show probably do understand this, but for the ones who don't, and for those who don't, perhaps from your perspective, how would you describe the biggest difference in terms of the line's role in those ways, and why you love the run block so much more?
Yeah, I guess a very simple analogy is you're either the hammer or the nail, right? and when you're running the ball, you feel like you're the hammer. Like I'm firing out. We're taking the fight to you. We're double teaming you. Like we're pushing you back, and to be able to fire out like that, you feel like you're kind of imposing your will and you're the aggressor. In pass protection, our saying was patient but physical. So in pass protection, you kind of start out, you're a little bit more passive. You're kind of waiting for them to come to you. So you sometimes feel a little bit more like the nail in that aspect. But I think, when you look at the run game, when you have a physical running back, you could just feel as you're starting to wear down a defense. Mm-hmm. And the more you run it, it's like, okay, that run that got 3 or 4 yards, now we're getting 6 and 7. The linebackers aren't as quick to come up and hit that hole. The safeties don't want any part of that. They're making business decisions. I think that's when you kind of really start to feel like you could take over a game as an offensive lineman. I will say this, as a center, you didn't mind pass protection when you were uncovered. Like if I had the Mike linebacker and he dropped, like I'm a freedom fighter. I get to go clean somebody out. That's kind of fun. So, we used to always have a saying in the O-line room, look for work. Look for work was if you were an unblocked or unguarded offensive player, if nobody was on you, look for work. You go look for somebody to hit. Go smoke the defensive end that's bull rushing your tackle. Just knock him on his ass. Go over there and chip the guard. Help those guys out. So I took a lot of pride in that. If I was sliding to a linebacker and he dropped, I'm looking for somebody to hit. They're trying to take our quarterback out. So if I could come in there, and hey, if I happen to punch you in the ribs on the way, like that's all's fair in love and war right there.
Look for work. I like that expression too. We talked about this earlier in the show. Right now, the Giants dealing with some injuries. It's their first day on the practice field of the week, and Malik Neighbors, Devin Singletary not involved. Last week, Thursday Night Football in Week 4, we did see Daniel Jones attempting a deep ball to Jalen Hyatt at the end of the game. It was one of those, we haven't quite seen them connect, not just Daniel and Jalen, but Daniel and Darius Slayton, DJ and Malik Neighbors. We haven't quite seen that deep ball hit just yet.
Are you a morning person? Or when you roll out of bed, do you literally roll out of bed? Listen, mornings can be hard to handle. From the moment you open your eyes, your responsibilities and to-dos start piling up in your head. But you know what helps? Yep, a shower. But not just any shower, a shower with Irish Spring. Yeah, as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. Oh, yeah. All those to-dos are totally doable. Because that crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from that glorious shower, 37 minutes later, because let's be honest, you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want. You're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Look for Irish Spring in the soap aisle at Walmart.
With Malik, returning from concussion protocol, hopefully soon. Unclear if it will be in time for week 5. It really does open up a little bit of that receiving room because of how much, I mean, Neighbors is not just leading the Giants, but among the league leaders in receptions and percentage of an offense. So when it opens things up like that for other players and other plays, what are your expectations of what we'll see from this Giants offense if Malik can't go?
Yeah, if he can go or
cannot.
If he can't go, it changes everything because Malik, at full strength, this offense, Malik, they're trying to get him the ball early and often, and they want to get him the ball on these short intermediate routes. Let him kind of run through defenders, make guys miss, and then we saw him, win on that double move early on in the game. And man, I mean, he turned that corner around. So he's got this unique ability, this special set of skills that you can't replicate. So with him being out there, it absolutely opens up stuff for Wandale and for Jalen Hyatt and for all the intermediate throws. And if people want to play with single high or two high safeties to take that deep ball away, that leaves a lot of space in the middle of the field. So if Malik can't go, now, I think Jalen Hyatt can probably match his speed, but I don't know if he does the exact same things that Neighbors can do, in and out of breaks and, finding different ways to get separation. So it definitely changes the way that you do things. I think Jalen Hyatt is still absolutely a deep threat. He's got unbelievable speed. He's got world-class speed. The challenge is just, finding ways to get him into the position where he can use that speed on a go route, and he's not running into coverage. But look, no doubt about it, Malik Neighbors has added electricity to this offense. He's added an intensity that we really haven't seen from the receiver position in a long time. That ability that every single time he touches the ball, everybody's on the edge of their seat. Is he going to break a tackle? Is he going to make somebody miss? Is he going to make some sick play?
Right.
And the Giants are even using him in different ways now. He was lined up in the backfield for a couple plays against the Dallas Cowboys. They brought him into motion out of trips left bunch formation.
He attempted a pass.
Yeah, he's running the Wildcat. So they're going to definitely have to get creative if he can't go. Obviously, it would be a huge loss from what he's brought from a production standpoint, but I think the challenge would be he adds so much energy and so much intensity to that offense and almost like a little bit of a swagger. That would be, really tough to replace with just one guy. I think guys like Wandale would have to step up. Obviously, you hope Singletary goes as well, but the NFL is all about opportunities, and opportunities are never missed. Somebody will always take them. So if Jalen Hyatt has that opportunity, I have no doubt that he's going to step up.
Well, and it's so interesting as well that Malik Neighbors, just 4 games into his young career, has already developed such a chemistry and a reliability with Daniel Jones. And the fact that they have that kind of trust. And, he talked about how Daniel Jones had said to him at one point, hey, listen, I'm going to throw the ball up there and I'm going to trust you to either you come down with it or nobody comes down with it. And they have that relationship. It's not easy to build that in that stage of your career. It takes a lot of, maturity, not only in the way that you play the game, but the way that you approach the environment as well, to say, okay, I'm going to be your number one trusted target. And having that already so early on. I mean, I talked to Amani Toomer about this. He said it took him years to get his first 100-yard game in this league, and he is the Giants' record holder for the most receiving yards. So when you look at what Neighbors has already been able to do in his very young NFL career in terms of productivity, in terms of reliability, where's the ceiling for this kid?
Yeah, great question. I think with respect to Amani, it was a different game.
That's true.
He was a rookie.
That is
true. We didn't throw the ball like we did now, and we don't have the same rules. So it's definitely evolved from that standpoint. I think for Malik, the interesting thing is, like, his physical tools are just part of it. And I think you don't come into the NFL and have this kind of an impact without having unbelievable FBI, football intelligence. Like, he understands the game. He understands concepts. He understands defenses, how they're trying to defend him, difference between zone and man and 2 zone and, cover 2 versus cover 3, and understands where to sit down in the soft pockets and find voids and find spaces. So you can see that Daniel trusts him because he knows that he knows what to do. He knows how to attack these defenses. And I think that's always the thing that takes time is, do I trust that you're going to be where you're supposed to be? If I throw the ball before you're even breaking open, can I trust that you're going to run that route at 7 yards or 10 yards or whatever you're supposed to be at? So I think that trust takes time. But, for Malik, I'm impressed with how smart he is. I'm impressed with how he's done a great job of learning the offense and transitioning everything to game day. I think, look, his physical attributes are one thing. The mental side of the game is another. And everybody talks to rookies and the speed of the game. They talk about how it's so much faster. That's not been an issue for him at all. I think the other thing that I'm impressed with Malik about is the mental toughness. Hey, if you have a drop, shrug it off. Let's go. Yeah. Water off the duck's back. Like, next play, he's bounced back from that. It has not impacted the next play. And look, he knows, I'm going to mess up. There's going to be times where, I make a mistake, like every player, especially every rookie or young player. It hasn't impacted him going forward. And I think he's bounced back from all of that. And that just kind of shows the mental toughness that he has as well.
And it's not that it hasn't impacted him. It's not that it doesn't bother him. It weighs on him so heavily that he is determined to make a play the next one.
He cares. I mean, it's not like he's like, oh,
it's not like, oh, well, ho-hum. Yeah.
But he doesn't dwell on it. And, I think it just fuels his fire to want to go out there and make up for it.
Right. Because some people, it's human nature. Some people will take a misstep and dwell on that and let that lead them to more missteps, where some people will dwell on it and say, no, I'm going to course correct here. I'm going to show you how well I can do. One of the things that I really love,
kind of like golf, right?
Yeah.
Like in golf, you hit a bad shot and you're like, all right, I don't have the shanks. That was just a bad shot. But sometimes people turn it into the shanks. They have one bad shot and then they start overthinking it. They're holding on to the club a little too hard. They're getting angry, so now they're swinging different and harder. And then you do have the shanks, and then you're in trouble. Just like Chubb says, it's all in the hips. All right, you have one bad shot. Eliminate it, move on to the next shot.
Go to your happy place.
There you go.
Go to your happy place. One of the things that I do really love, though, too, one more thought on Neighbors, is that not only is he getting the trust and respect of his teammates, but also of players across the league. And we've seen, defenders kind of giving flowers to Neighbors. This precious mic'd up segment, Myles Garrett kind of acknowledging and saying, wow, I am so impressed with you. And Neighbors, thank you, sir. Yeah. I thought it was adorable that, you see guys on a football field. And of course, he's a rookie. He's showing respect to this guy who's been in this league for years and is doing it. But it was like the respect going both ways is just something that you love to see in a game that, there's a lot of competition, a lot of trash talk, a lot of this and that, but game recognized game.
I think it was really cool that Myles Garrett did that. And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns game. Myles Garrett was mic'd up. Was it Myles or Malik?
Myles Garrett.
Myles was mic'd up, and after a play, he came over to Malik and, he said, "You're a bad dude," or I don't remember exactly verbatim what he said, but kind of gave him some dap, and Neighbor said, "Thank you, sir." And, I just think it's really cool when somebody of Myles Garrett's stature, like as a rookie, is acknowledging you as a player and your game and giving you respect. Now, how does that happen? You know what? It doesn't happen by just being good for 1 week. Like the NFL is all about, that's great, you did it once. Can you do it again? Mm-hmm. Okay, can you do it again? Can you do it week in and week out? It was something Tom Brady harped on all the time. And he was like, it's great. There are a lot of people that have had one good year or one good month or one good week.
Or one good game.
Can you do it repetitively? Can you be counted on to do it consistently? And I think that's where Malik is really starting to kind of grow his fan base and kind of grow his legacy. And I also will say he's not the first person to call Myles Garrett sir. Like when you see Myles Garrett on the football field and you see like the mountain of a man this dude is, he's carved out of granite. I think it was kind of cool just to see him, kind of paying respect. I don't want to say to your elders, but in the NFL there's a little bit of a pecking order. Like, if you're a rookie and then if you're a veteran, like, that was kind of cool just to see, like, how much he kind of looks up to guys like Myles Garrett and the respect aspect of it.
Absolutely. And just like you said, just those moments that are captured on those mic'd up, those exchanges, those real exchanges. He's not the first person to ever say it, but the fact that he was like, hey, like...
We got to ask Leak, did he do the jersey swap, like, after that? Like,
I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of the post-game jersey swap. Like, have your equipment guys send it to him later on, FedEx it, back and forth, do all that. Like, you don't need to do it on the field. But
the jersey swap is an expensive habit, too, because if you swap jerseys, you have to pay for that jersey that you're giving away.
Yeah, as you should. Like, hey, you know what? Like, that's team property, But I think for Malik, it's probably pretty cool for him. You know, when you're a football fan, like as a kid, you're growing up, the NFL just always feels like it's this distant reality. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get there. And even for him at LSU, I'm sure he knew, like, all right, man, you know what, I'm going to get drafted. I'm going to make it to the NFL. Like, you know, he was one of the most electric players. But you still almost don't believe it until you get there. And then now to be playing in the NFL and to have guys coming up to you and paying you respect like that and kind of giving you props, I know it makes you feel good. It makes you want to work harder because you're like, man, you know what? They think I'm good now. Like, I'm just scratching the surface. Like, just wait till they get a load of me next year. Wait till they get a load of me in a couple of months.
Yeah. Well, and it's like that story. I told this story on our one of our preseason broadcasts, but Malik, when he was a kid, when he first started playing football, you know, his hands were too big for the youth gloves, and they went to the sporting goods store and they couldn't find ones that fit him. And so he DM'd Odell Beckham Jr. Because that was his favorite player at the time. And he said, hey, can I get your gloves? Thinking, well, your gloves will fit me. Odell didn't see it, obviously, until draft night when Malik was drafted. The fellow LSU wide receiver saw the DM because he had followed Malik when he saw that he was drafted, and responded to him and said, hey, guess you don't need those gloves now 10 years later. And so, like, those moments are just like, wow. And the fact that I love this for Malik, that he's stacking these moments of just like, okay, and continuing to stay focused on the task at hand and continuing to stay, locked in on saying, okay, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm not going to be like, yes, okay, let me settle in my greatness. I'm going to keep pushing through. And I'm excited to see what he has to offer for the rest of the season. Giants fans, the Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Shaun, before we wrap up the show today, you know, obviously week 5, Seahawks a big one. We've talked quite a bit about it so far today, but what's one thing that you want to leave Giants fans with in terms of what you're looking at, what you're focusing on, what you're thinking about this week in terms of Giants football?
To me, it's red zone offense. Like, we've been talking about it ad nauseum. You know, it was something that I think the very first practice of training camp, it was what they worked on.
Yeah.
Was red zone efficiency, red zone offense. The whole narrative this training camp was Daboll's taking over the play calling. Well, the red zone is where you make your hay. Like like what you do for the other 80 yards and getting there, that's all great. But if you're not cashing in once you get down the red zone, you're going to struggle to win games. And, you know, that's really what this team has come down to. They've dealt with the same thing last year. 2 years ago, they were phenomenal in the red zone. They found a way to punch it in. I think you need to be consistent down in the red zone, but somebody's got to make a play. And you whether it's a throw, whether it's, you know, making a guy miss, whether it's breaking a tackle, but it just seems like there's too many missed opportunities down in the red zone. And so that's the one thing that I'm going to be watching for in this game. No, like, you can't go into Seattle and kick field goals. Why did Detroit beat Seattle on Monday night? Because they were scoring touchdowns. They forced them into a one-dimensional offense, throwing the ball 56 times. That's how you win football games. And when you're kicking field goals, it almost kind of feels like a moral victory for the defense that they kept you out. So I think that's the biggest kryptonite right now for this Giants offense. They've been able to move the ball. They've been able to throw the ball down the field, go on 12-play, 14-play drives, but they haven't been able to finish those.
Yeah, and they got to be able to finish. They got to get that. We got one quick question in here before we wrap this show up, because we got one tweet. Paul wants to know, Shaun, can you speak to run blocking scheme and how it's matched to play calling? He said, listening to Bobby Skinner talk about successful use of duo versus zone blocking in the play calling against Dallas, not going to their strength, how are they supposed to mesh?
Great question. Well, for those of you who don't know, so there's duo, as he mentioned, and zone blocking scheme. Zone blocking scheme is, you know, you're running a zone play to the right. You're really trying to get the defense to move horizontally and get them moving, and then you find a way to crease them, and the running back presses the hole. Duo blocking is more downhill, and you're trying to get double teams. So it's a little bit more of a power style running game. It's more of a downhill running scheme, so the running back can keep it front side or he can cut it back. It's not as much of a slashing style scheme. So I think when you play the Dallas Cowboys, and one of the things that the Giants have struggled with in the past with the Dallas Cowboys is blocking those movements, the slants, the stunts, the darts by the defensive tackle, the crossface by the nose. When you have teams that want to do that a lot, the dual blocking scheme is actually really good, because when you have a double team, now all of a sudden you're in a position to block that guy that's on the move. You're more susceptible to some of those stunt moves when you're gap scheming and when you're, on the move. So I think those are things that you tweak week in and week out, based on what you're seeing other defenses do and also what other teams are having success with. So, if you look at what the Detroit Lions are doing, and it's like, hey, man, if they were killing them with the duo play, you're absolutely going to come out there and say, can they put that fire out? Like, we're going to run that football, we're going to run that play, we're going to run duo and see if they fix that, or is that still something that they're struggling with? And I think you look at what other teams try to attack and what they try to do, and you try to emulate that.
I like it. Paul, thank you for the tweet, and thank you to everyone for your flexibility. Apologies again for the trouble with the phones today. Hopefully we'll get this back on track so that we'll be able to take calls as usual as the week of Big Blue Kickoff Live continues.
Over and out.
10-4 Rubber Ducky. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live. I'm Madelyn Burke. He's Shaun O'Hara. It's part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcast. Big Blue Kickoff Live is presented by Cadillac.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? That's a no. But strong deodorant? That's a yes. A six-pack of abs? Definitely no. But a six-pack of beer? Uber Eats can get you that. There you have it. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.